So there I was, minding my own business at Gold's Gym in Newark, trying to explain to Mrs. Henderson why she couldn't lose 20 pounds in a week. When my communicator started buzzing like an angry wasp, the hologram that popped up was this tall, blue alien with more tentacles than a sushi restaurant and the dramatic flair of a soap opera actor. Greetings, Jake Morrison of Earth. The alien Zephron apparently threw his tentacles wide like he was accepting an Oscar. I am Council Leader Zephron of the Galactic Federation, and we have a situation of dire proportions. Behind him, this bug-looking creature was having what I can only describe as a nervous breakdown. 6 arms, compound eyes, and the jittery energy of someone who'd been mainlining espresso for 3 decades. The dragon situation has reached critical mass, sir. We're talking extinction-level obesity. I paused my treadmill. I'm sorry, did you just say dragon situation? Indeed. Zephron's voice could have shattered windows. 1,000 years ago, the mighty war dragon Vorthak defended our galaxy from invasion. As a reward, we granted him eternal tribute in the form of food offerings. The bug creature Clicks, according to his name tag, chittered anxiously. He hasn't stopped eating since. Current mass estimates put him at approximately the size of your Earth's moon. I blinked. And you're telling me this because? Because Zephron proclaimed, striking another dramatic pose, our research indicates that humans possess an inexplicable ability to motivate other species to physical fitness. You have been selected as humanity's cultural exchange ambassador. Selected by who? Your planetary government received our request 3 Earth hours ago. The response was, and I quote, "Sure, take Jake. He's been complaining about wanting a challenge anyway." I made a mental note to have words with whoever sold me out. Look, I train humans. Not dragons, not aliens. Humans. Clicks's compound eyes somehow managed to look pleading. Please, Mr. Morrison. Vorthak has consumed the tribute offerings of 47 worlds this week alone. Our economies are collapsing. Our food supplies are dwindling. And worst of all, he keeps complaining about his back pain. Plus, Zephron added with what I assumed was a smile, the pay is excellent. 50,000 galactic credits. I did some quick math. That was roughly equivalent to $500,000. Mrs. Henderson's 20-pound goal suddenly seemed less important. Fine, I said, already regretting my life choices. But I want hazard pay if this thing tries to eat me. Zephron's tentacles writhed with what I hoped was joy. Excellent. Transport leaves in 1 Earth hour. Hack light, you'll be living on Vorthak's personal asteroid for the foreseeable future. And that's how I became the galaxy's most reluctant dragon trainer. Because apparently when the universe has a problem, it sends a human to fix it. Lucky me. The shuttle ride to Vorthak's personal asteroid took 6 hours through hyperspace, which gave me plenty of time to question every decision I'd ever made. The pilot, a cheerful purple blob named Gloopy, kept reassuring me that dragons were mostly vegetarian these days. Mostly? I asked. Well, he hasn't eaten anyone in about 300 years. Though that might be because he physically can't fit anyone in his mouth anymore. Comforting. When we dropped out of hyperspace, I understood why they called it a personal asteroid. What floated in front of us wasn't an asteroid, it was a small planet, and every surface was covered in what looked like fast food wrappers the size of city blocks. That's not trash, Gloopy explained helpfully. Those are tribute delivery containers. Vorthak gets about 10,000 meals delivered daily from across the galaxy. The landing pad was roughly the size of Manhattan, and as we touched down I could feel the ground vibrating with what sounded like the world's loudest snoring. In the distance, a mountain moved. No, wait, that wasn't a mountain. Holy crap, I whispered. The dragon was enormous. His head alone was the size of a skyscraper, and his belly stretched beyond the horizon. Scales that had probably once been a magnificent gold now looked more like tarnished brass, and his wings were folded uselessly against his sides like deflated party balloons. A tiny figure zipped toward us, and I mean tiny. The fairy creature was maybe 6 inches tall, glowing pink, and looked like she'd been awake for about 3 centuries straight. "Oh, thank the cosmos you're here," she squeaked, hovering at eye level. "I'm Pip, Vorthak's personal assistant, dietary coordinator, complaint department, and occasional therapist. Are you really here to help him lose weight?" "That's the plan," I said, shouldering my gym bag. "How bad are we talking here?" Pip's glow dimmed. "Well, his daily caloric intake is roughly equivalent to the energy output of a small star. His exercise routine consists of complaining about various aches and pains. And his last medical checkup revealed that his cholesterol levels are visible from orbit." A sound like a foghorn echoed across the landscape. The mountain Vorthak was waking up. "Who dares disturb the slumber of the mighty Vorthak?" The voice was so deep it made my bones vibrate. "I require my afternoon tribute of deep-fried chocolate planets." Pip zipped closer to my ear. "He talks like that all the time. Very dramatic. Also, he's been awake for exactly 4 minutes, which means he's already hungry again." I walked toward the massive head, trying to project confidence I absolutely didn't feel. "Vorthak, I'm Jake Morrison, your new fitness trainer." One eye, the size of a swimming pool, cracked open and focused on me. "Fitness trainer? What mockery is this? I am a dragon of legend. I do not require fitness." "Right," I said, looking up at the creature who was clearly having trouble lifting his own head. "When's the last time you flew?" "I fly whenever I wish to fly." "When?" "When?" A pause. "Flying is for lesser beings." "Uh-huh. And when did you last leave this asteroid?" Another pause, longer this time. "Leaving is overrated." Pip fluttered nervously. "It's been about 600 years since he's moved more than his head and arms." "I heard that, Pip. And I'll have you know that I have perfectly valid reasons for remaining here. The galaxy needs me to guard this strategic location." I looked around at the junk food wrappers and empty tribute containers. "Strategic location? It overlooks things." This was going to be harder than I thought. Day 1 of Dragon Boot Camp started at what Vorthak insisted was an ungodly hour noon, Galactic Standard Time. I'd managed to clear a space roughly the size of Rhode Island for our workout area, mostly by asking Pip to use her fairy magic to relocate about 10,000 empty pizza boxes. "Today we begin with gentle stretching," I announced, standing on a platform that put me roughly at eye level with Vorthak's nostril. "I do not stretch. Stretching is for the weak. You literally haven't moved in 6 centuries. Your muscles have muscles that have forgotten what muscles are supposed to do. My muscles are perfect." I gestured to his wing, which was currently being used as a shelf for what looked like a collection of tribute dessert containers. "Can you lift that wing?" "Of course I can lift my wing." "Do it." 30 seconds of the most pathetic groaning sounds I'd ever heard later. The wing moved approximately 3 inches before Vorthak gave up with a dramatic sigh that could have powered a small city. "The wing is clearly defective." "Right, Pip. Can you clear those dessert containers?" As Pip zipped around, magically relocating roughly a ton of cosmic cake remnants, I pulled out my tablet and started taking notes. This wasn't just about weight loss, this was about convincing a creature with an ego the size of Jupiter that he needed help. "We're going to start simple," I said. "Dragon yoga." "Yoga is beneath me." "Dragon yoga," I repeated firmly. "It's ancient, mystical, very dragony." "Proceed." "Proceed." The next hour was like watching a mountain try to do interpretive dance. Vorthak's attempt at downward-facing dragon resulted in him getting stuck face first in his own asteroid surface. His warrior pose looked more like dying whale pose, and his version of child's pose required 3 cargo ships to help prop up his belly. "This is humiliating," he grumbled, currently wedged between 2 large boulders after a failed attempt at a spinal twist. "This is progress," I lied, making notes about possibly needing construction equipment for future sessions. Day 2. Asteroid lifting. I'd found some conveniently dragon-sized space rocks and figured we'd start with basic strength training. These pebbles are insulting to my mighty strength. Those pebbles are roughly the size of Manhattan. Exactly. Pebbles. Vorthak's attempt to lift the first asteroid resulted in the most spectacular display of huffing and puffing I'd ever witnessed. His face turned from gold to purple to a concerning shade of green before he finally managed to raise it approximately 6 inches off the ground. "I have conquered the pebble," he announced, immediately dropping it and demanding a snack break. "We've been exercising for 4 minutes. 4 minutes is an eternity." Day 3 through 7 followed a similar pattern. Attempts at planet-circling flights ended with Vorthak making it roughly 50 feet before crash landing in his own tribute pile. Combat training devolved into him, swinging his claws at imaginary enemies while sitting down. And every exercise session was punctuated by increasingly creative excuses. "My scales are itchy. My tail has a cramp. The cosmic alignment is wrong for physical activity. The asteroid's gravitational field is clearly malfunctioning." By day 8, I was ready to throw in the towel. I'd never met a client so creatively resistant to basic movement. Even Pip was starting to lose her eternally optimistic demeanor. "Maybe we should try a different approach," she suggested quietly as we watched Vorthak demand his 15th snack break of the morning. "Like what? Hypnosis? Dragon psychology? A really big crane?" "I heard that," Vorthak rumbled. "And I'll have you know that I am making excellent progress. You got stuck in your own food bowl yesterday." "The food bowl is clearly too small." I was starting to understand why the Galactic Council was desperate enough to call in a human. Week 2 started with me seriously considering whether it was possible to get a refund on interstellar travel. Vorthak had managed to get himself wedged upside down in a crater of his own making during what he'd called a victory lap around his food storage area. It had taken 6 hours and a team of antigrav specialists to extract him. I maintained that the crater was improperly constructed. He grumbled from his current position flat on his back like a giant golden turtle. I was sitting on a convenient boulder, staring at my notes and wondering if I could list Dragon Whisperer on my resume. That's when I noticed something that made me look up from my tablet. "Hey Vorthak," I said. "How long have you been alone out here?" "I am not alone. I have Pip." "Before Pip." A pause. "I am the mighty Vorthak. I require no companionship." "That's not what I asked." Another pause, longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice had lost some of its bombastic edge. Time is difficult to measure when one does not move. I closed my tablet and really looked at him. Beneath all that mass and bluster, I saw something I recognized from my years as a trainer, not laziness, not stubbornness, but something deeper. "You know what?" I said. "Forget the exercise for today. Tell me about the war." "Which war?" "The one that made you a legend." For the first time since I'd arrived, Vorthak's voice carried actual emotion instead of theatrical dramatics. The Skreath invasion. 1,000 years ago. They came in ships that blotted out stars with weapons that could crack planets. And you stopped them. I was magnificent. His voice grew quieter. I could fly faster than light itself. My flames could melt battle cruisers. When I roared, entire fleets would flee. Must have felt incredible. It did. He was silent for a long moment. The gratitude of the galaxy was intoxicating. They brought me tribute, called me savior, built monuments in my honor. And when the battles ended, when peace returned, they kept bringing tribute. And I kept accepting it. I was starting to get it. And gradually, the tribute became the point. Food replaced glory. Comfort replaced purpose. And one day I realized I had become everything I once fought against, a creature that consumed without contributing. Pip, who had been quietly listening from her perch on a nearby rock, flew over and landed on my shoulder. "He's been carrying that guilt for centuries," she whispered. "But you know what the funny thing is? I said, standing up and walking closer to Vorthak's massive head. You're still a warrior. You're just fighting the wrong enemy. What do you mean? You're fighting me. You're fighting the exercises. You're fighting change itself. But the real enemy is the part of you that's convinced you don't deserve to be magnificent again. Vorthak's giant eye focused on me with an intensity I hadn't seen before. You think I could be magnificent again? I think you never stopped being magnificent. You just forgot what that looks like. The next day, something had changed. When I arrived at our training area, Vorthak was already there, still enormous, still struggling. But there was something different in his posture. I have been thinking, he announced, about what it means to be a warrior. Yeah, what'd you figure out? Warriors do not surrender to their weaknesses. They conquer them. From that day forward, every exercise became a battle. Not against me or the equipment, but against the voice in his head that said he was too far gone to recover. His wing stretching became aerial combat preparation. His strength training became fortress-crushing drills. His cardio became pursuit and destroy maneuvers. Slowly, incredibly slowly, things began to change. His wings started to lift higher. His movements became less labored. And for the first time in centuries, Vorthak began to believe he could fly again. You know, I told Pip one evening as we watched Vorthak practice what he dubbed tactical hovering, basically lifting himself 3 feet off the ground for 30 seconds at a time. I think we might actually pull this off. That's when my communicator started buzzing with the most urgent alert I'd ever received. The hologram that materialized in front of me was Zephron, but this wasn't the dramatically posed alien I'd met before. This Zephron looked like he'd been awake for a week straight and had aged 10 years in the past hour. Jake Morrison. He practically screamed. We have a situation of catastrophic proportions. Behind him, Clix was running around in circles literally, all 6 arms flailing while his compound eyes darted in every direction. They came out of nowhere. Our entire fleet is gone. We're defenseless. Slow down, I said, though my stomach was already dropping. Who came out of nowhere? The Screeth. Zephron's tentacles were writhing, and what I was learning was pure panic. The same species Vorthak defeated 1,000 years ago. They've returned with 10 times the firepower and a serious grudge. On cue, the sky above Vorthak's asteroid lit up with the unmistakable flashes of a space battle going very, very badly. In the distance, I could see the Galactic Council's military ships, what few there were, getting systematically dismantled by sleek black vessels that moved like angry wasps. How bad is it? I asked, though I was pretty sure I didn't want to know. Click stopped running in circles long enough to pull up a tactical display. They've destroyed 40% of our defensive fleet in the first wave. Current projections show complete galactic conquest within 72 hours. And you're calling me because? Zephron's dramatic tendencies kicked in even during what appeared to be the apocalypse. Because we need Vorthak. He's the only weapon in the galaxy capable of stopping them. I looked over at Vorthak, who was currently struggling to maintain his tactical hovering for more than a minute at a time. He'd made incredible progress, sure, but he was still roughly moon-sized, and had the aerodynamics of a small planet. Guys, I said carefully, he's not exactly battle-ready yet. Battle-ready? Vorthak's voice boomed across the asteroid. He'd apparently been listening to our conversation. Did someone say the Screeth have returned? Another explosion lit up the sky, this one much closer. One of the Council's dreadnoughts was spinning out of control, trailing debris and what looked like very small escape pods. Indeed, mighty Vorthak. Zephron's voice cracked with desperation. The galaxy calls upon its greatest defender once more. For a moment, Vorthak just stared at the battle raging overhead. Then slowly he began to rise. Not his usual labored lifting, this was different. Purposeful. His wings, which had been dragging on the ground for centuries, started to spread. You don't have to do this, I said. You're not ready for combat yet. Vorthak's massive head turned toward me, and in his eyes I saw something I'd only glimpsed in our training sessions, the warrior he used to be. Ready or not, he said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd once saved the galaxy. The Screeth will learn that some dragons never truly sleep. What happened next was the most incredible thing I'd ever witnessed. Vorthak, despite still being astronomically overweight, launched himself into space with a power I hadn't known he possessed. His wings, which had barely been able to lift him 3 feet a week ago, somehow carried him into the void. The Screeth fleet, which had been systematically destroying everything in their path, suddenly found themselves facing something they'd probably hoped was just a myth by now. The first wave of enemy ships turned toward Vorthak like he was just another target. Big mistake. The roar that emerged from Vorthak's throat wasn't just sound, it was a weapon. The sonic boom shattered the hulls of the nearest Screeth vessels and sent the rest scrambling for defensive positions. His flame, which I'd never actually seen him use, turned out to be less dragon fire and more miniature star. In the space of 10 minutes, Vorthak single-handedly turned a galactic invasion into a galactic rout. The Screeth fleet, which had been confidently conquering everything in sight, suddenly found themselves on the wrong end of a very angry, very large, and surprisingly agile dragon. Does anyone else want to threaten my galaxy? Vorthak bellowed as the last Screeth ship vanished into hyperspace. Through the communicator, I could hear Zephron weeping with relief. 3 months later, I was standing in what used to be my apartment in Newark, staring at a pile of boxes and wondering how my life had gotten so weird. The official title on my new Galactic Council identification card read Senior Fitness Coordinator and Interspecies Wellness Specialist, which was a fancy way of saying the guy they call when the universe has a weight problem. My communicator buzzed the new model they'd given me could apparently reach me from anywhere in the galaxy, because of course it could. Jake. Pip's cheerful voice filled my apartment. She'd gotten a promotion to official dragon handler and fitness liaison. How's the packing going? Slowly, I admitted. I'm still trying to figure out how to explain to my mom that I've been hired to run a galactic gym. Through the communicator, I could hear the sound of Vorthak's voice in the background, though he was speaking at a normal volume now instead of his old dramatic shouting routine. Apparently, having a purpose in life again had mellowed him out considerably. What's he up to today? I asked. Oh, the usual. Morning patrol flight around the Andromeda sector, followed by his strength training routine. He's up to lifting asteroids the size of small moons now. Then this afternoon he's got that diplomatic meeting with the Regilian Trade Federation. The Galactic Council had been smart enough to make Vorthak's new role official guardian of the galaxy, with full military authority and a salary that mostly consisted of high-quality, nutritionally balanced tribute meals. He was still huge, but now it was the kind of huge that came with muscle mass instead of just cake mass. And Pip continued, he wanted me to tell you that your replacement is working out great. My replacement. Right. Because apparently word had gotten out across the galaxy that humans were good at motivating other species to get in shape. And now I had requests coming in from 17 different star systems. How's Grux doing? I asked. Grux was a 3-headed space whale who'd been living off nothing but fermented space plankton for about 2 centuries. The Cetacean Council had specifically requested that human trainer who fixed the dragon problem. Well, he's down to only eating 1 planet's worth of plankton per week instead of 3. And yesterday he managed to swim around an entire solar system without stopping for a snack break. Progress. And my doorbell rang, which was weird, because I was pretty sure I hadn't ordered anything that required a signature. I opened the door to find a delivery drone holding what looked like an official galactic communication. Jake Morrison? The drone asked in that annoyingly cheerful voice all service bots seem to have. That's me. Urgent delivery from the Galactic Council. Please place your thumb here for identity verification. I pressed my thumb to the scanner, and the drone handed me what turned out to be a sealed mission briefing. The cover letter was signed by Zephron himself. Dear Jake, Jow. I read aloud, we have another situation that requires your unique talents. Are you familiar with the legendary Phoenix of Proxima Centauri? Well, Blake Rain. It turns out he's been stress eating for the past 500 years and is now too heavy to achieve combustion for his rebirth cycle. The Phoenix Council has specifically requested your services. Transport leaves tomorrow. Sincerely, Council Leader Zephron. P.S. Hazard pay has been doubled. I looked at the mission briefing, then at my half-packed boxes, then at my reflection in the window. 6 months ago, I was a gym trainer in Newark whose biggest challenge was convincing middle-aged humans to use the elliptical machine. Now I was apparently the galaxy's go-to guy for mythological creature fitness emergencies. Pip, I said into the communicator, you still there? Yep. Did you get your new assignment? A phoenix with an eating disorder. Ooh, that's a tough one. Fire-based metabolism is tricky. You'll probably need to adjust your nutritional approach completely. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. Here I was, having a casual conversation about the dietary needs of a legendary immortal bird with a 6-inch fairy, but while getting ready to pack up my life and move to another star system. You know what the funny part is? I said. I think I'm actually starting to enjoy this. And that's how I became the galaxy's most reluctant fitness coordinator. Because apparently when the universe has weird problems, it sends humans to solve them. And honestly, after dealing with Vorthak, a stress-eating phoenix sounded like a nice, relaxing change of pace. Famous last words, right? The communicator crackled one more time. Oh, and Jake? It was Vorthak's voice, no longer booming but somehow still carrying that ancient authority. Thank you for reminding me who I was meant to be. Thank you, I replied, for reminding me that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is believe they can be better than they think they are. As I sealed up the last box and prepared for my next impossible assignment, I couldn't help but smile. Mrs. Henderson and her 20-pound weight loss goal seemed like a lifetime ago. These days, my clients were legendary creatures with cosmic scale problems, and somehow, that felt exactly right. After all, somebody had to keep the galaxy in shape. Might as well be the human.